I think you'll also be outside taking questions afterwards.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks. Up next, we have Rachel to talk about making Web3 mobile. Welcome, Rachel. Wait.
Hi, thanks. Hello. Kudos to the organizers for running on time today. I think that's pretty impressive. Hey, everybody. I'm Rachel. I work for Status, Status.im. Is anybody familiar with Status in the audience already? OK, that's good. I've been with the organization for about 6 months now, so I do know everything about everything. Just kidding. But the topic of the talk today is making Web3 mobile, because Status is first and foremost a consumer mobile application. So I'm going to tell you a few things I know about the technologies that we're working with to bring Web3 to your pocket. This is the current manifestation of Status. This is our core product today. We have a messenger. It's a decentralized peer-to-peer messenger. We have a crypto wallet, which supports ERC20 tokens. And we have a Web3-enabled browser for exploring decentralized applications. And the whole purpose of this product is really to make it easy and enjoyable and also safe for people to interact with the decentralized web. But I would call it really just the current manifestation of Status, because we definitely define ourselves not just by what we do, but why we do it. So at a higher level, you could say that Status is kind of a collective of people who really believe in this statement. We believe in the right of all individuals to transact and communicate freely, privately, securely, and without fear of censorship or exploitation. We are very much a principles-led organization. We've got these 10 ideas that we kind of strive to abide by in everything that we do. You could read more about what these mean to us online, but there's a lot of common themes from this space, so you probably get the gist. But we really do use these to drive our decision-making. Back this summer when we initially wrote these principles, all of the core contributors of Status were asked to review the draft and weigh in on them, and then cryptographically sign them, agreeing that they would try to abide by these every day. And I speak to that because it's relevant to our decision to build a mobile-first application. It's obviously not easy to bring the blockchain down to that kind of environment. And I can tell you what's not motivating our decision to be mobile-first. It's not the convenience factor of mobile. It's not the fact that there's a global smartphone addiction going on, and we kind of want to meet people where they are, take advantage of push notifications to increase engagement or retention or anything like that. In fact, we don't know a whole lot about user engagement or retention or product metrics at all at Status. What's really driving the decision to build a mobile application is because, to the best of our abilities, we are designing for extremes. We really want the decentralized web to be accessible to everybody, everywhere. So what does that mean? Well, it could apply to resource-restricted devices, hence the turnstile. Mobile, any form of mobile today being a great starting point for that. But eventually, we see the decentralized web extending to things like turnstiles or mixed reality devices, point-of-sale devices, really any Internet of Things connected object you could imagine running Web3. But it also applies to restriction in terms of access. So this is a map of data from G20. This is mapping access to mobile or internet in the world's poorest 40% of the world's population. Tongue twister. And you'll notice these red areas on the map, even these areas, a quarter of these populations do have access to those things, and we know that that's largely driven by mobile. This is also data from 2014. So basically, all this says to us is that it's absolutely critical for the decentralized web to be mobile compatible if we truly want to achieve mass adoption. We're doing this because we're designing for people who are limited in access to channels of communication, financial systems, et cetera. So I was told it'll be a little bit more of a technical audience today, so I'm going to talk through 3 things, a little bit more protocol-level infrastructural things that we're doing to make Web3 usable. The first is going to be our chat protocol, which is built on top of Whisper. And then our recent implementation of the Ethereum name service, both in support for it in our mobile client and also a new registration dApp that we're launching. And then thirdly, some of our developer tools, the whole focus of which is really about making our progress with these technologies accessible to other developers as well. Before we jump into that, though, this is a look inside the Status application. So we build entirely on the Ethereum stack. We're really big believers in that ecosystem, and we've been part of it from day one. So at the base layer, we have Status Go. We use Golang to interact with Go Ethereum. And then we have an API to interface between Status Go and our front end, the client, Status React. Status React, it's written in Clojure script on top of React Native. And that is where you'll find our chat protocol and our web view, our mobile browser. Just a disclaimer, just to be transparent, we do currently use Infura, our PC, to connect to an Ethereum node. It's kind of just a fact of life for applications in this space today, I think. But we definitely have the ambition to connect users directly to the Ethereum network and for them to be running a node on their phone. So we have a lot of awesome work going on with a light client and also an ultra-light client that I won't touch on today, but it is a big topic of our research. So moving on to our chat protocol, the Status protocol. Why chat? This answer is a little bit more obvious, and it's basically that we've observed, of course, that chat is becoming increasingly a familiar and comfortable interface to people to do far more than just interact with their friends or chat one-to-one. Or in groups. There's a whole lot more functionality that we can build into that in a way that feels seamless and natural and accessible. So you'll notice, like, I can send money to my friend directly from my Status wallet, or my friend could ping me and say, "Hey, remember you owe me for dinner last week?" And I could respond by sending money right back in the chat. We also have the ambition, of course, to integrate different dApp functionality and things like that throughout the whole Status application. That said, there are many, many messenger applications out there that are doing certain things that Status promises to do. So they offer end-to-end encryption and a safe space to have private and secure communication. And a lot of those apps are doing it really well. So why are we entering that space, and what makes us different? And the answer to that is, you probably see this coming, Whisper. Who's familiar with the Whisper protocol in the audience? Okay, cool. So Whisper is the communication layer of the Ethereum stack. It is, as I mentioned earlier, a decentralized peer-to-peer protocol. And it has a few unique qualities. So not only is it peer-to-peer, which means that in places like China, Russia, Iran, hopefully a network that's peer-to-peer would be a lot more difficult to target or take down. But it's also a gossip protocol, which means that when a node receives a message, it then forwards that message on to all the other neighboring nodes. It's online only, so it does not by default support offline communication. Because of that, messages have a limited time to live. They have an expiration date and time. And in the Status protocol, they live for about 30 seconds to 2 minutes before they expire. And then lastly, it also utilizes proof of work. So when a sender is sending a message, they have to sign that, and they have to use proof of work, basically incurring computational costs so that we can be assured that the sender is sending a legitimate message, and then they're not trying to spam or maybe overwhelm the network through some kind of DDoS attack. And in the case of the Status protocol, the proof of work value is quite low, of course, because we're trying to prevent battery drainage on mobile. So all of that is quite challenging, as you can imagine, and it does lead to certain limitations and frustrations. So as you can see here, like every chat we have, this is a public chat. They're all text-based. We can't deliver images over Whisper currently. This public chat, like these are all random photos and random names. I'm chatting with somebody who's called Passionate, Stupendous Dutch Mouse Hound. This could be my good friend for all I know, but until that person adds me as a contact and does a key exchange with me, I can't know that. So for new users, you can imagine this being a little bit overwhelming or confusing, but there's a good reason that we're using Whisper. So apart from the peer-to-peer quality, that reason is darkness. Whisper is a dark routed network. And so what that means is that it broadcasts messages. And when a message goes out over the network, via the gossip protocol, it is actually sent to every node in the network. It floods the network. And so what that means is that there's absolutely no information about how messages are being routed, how frequently, where, when, to whom, because the data is just spread across the network equivalently. So I can't see anything. And a lot of you are probably familiar with the quote from the former NSA director who one time said, "We kill people based on metadata." The thing is that a lot of organizations out there, or there are organizations out there who are powerful enough to collect metadata, even from encrypted networks, and to use it for their own purposes, to identify people who are involved in certain communications. We even have a community member ourselves who's based in Nepal who shared with me that he or she is not comfortable discussing cryptocurrency online outside of Status ever since Nepal the government arrested a handful of people last year for trading cryptocurrencies in Nepal. So for me, that was a pretty powerful demonstration of why we build the way we do. We have gone a long way to make Whisper more usable. We have public chats, one-to-one chats, and group chats. I'm going to start speeding through a little bit because I'm running lower on time than I thought I would be. This is how a key exchange works. So by default, all Status clients are subscribed to this Whisper topic called a discovery topic. And through that topic is how we do contact requests. So if I want to add my friend, I would send them a contact request to their public key, along with my photo, my name, any other data associated with my profile. And when they confirm that they received that request, we would then be able to recognize each other by name. So Passionate Stupendous Dutch Mouse Hound is actually somebody called Little Blockchains. For offline communication, we are currently hosting our own Whisper nodes and mail server nodes. Mail servers are another feature of Whisper. We have 9 of them, and what they do is they cache message history so that each time a client connects, it goes and fetches your message history for you. It's not ideal for us that we be the only ones hosting these nodes, so in the future we would really love to have user-hosted nodes and for other users to be able to kind of pick and choose their mail server based on any sort of factor that you could imagine using to select storage services today. I'll skip through these slides. We have seen a decent amount of growth recently, partially because we ourselves are dog-fooding Status more and more. About 2,000 messages a day we've seen. And yeah, this is monitoring 40 different public chats. There's a strong dip on one of the weekends because, again, this is a lot of Status core contributors who are using Status. But it's good for us to see the load on the network and how that operates. Things we're going to move into next, I'll skip over. I just want to touch on ENS. ENS is something we're really excited about for user friendliness, and it can help us solve some of these challenges that we've just addressed. Who is familiar with the Ethereum name service? Yeah, good number of people. Okay, cool. So ENS is decentralized DNS, and it's basically going to be our answer to usernames without centralized storage. So when you sign up for Status, you're totally anonymous. You don't have to give your email address, your phone number, anything like that. You just need to set a password. But still, like, connecting people is at the heart of what we do, and we need a good way to do that. Looking at the current state of a Whisper ID, it's very similar to an Ethereum mainnet address. It's a very long hexadecimal hash. I can't send that to my friend very easily, although that is kind of my only option to copy-paste it or scan a QR code. ENS allows us to go from these hexadecimal hashes to something simple like Rachel, which is really ideal for us, and we want as many people as possible to have these addresses. So we have built our own ENS registration dApp. The steps involved to registering your own .eth address, I don't know if any of you have tried it. It's a multiple-step process. It takes days. It incurs costs. It's not super self-explanatory. So with our registration dApp, all a user has to do is, in a few clicks, just put down an S&T deposit for the name that they want, and it will register as a subdomain of a domain that we own. And that nominal S&T deposit is being used partially to prevent name squatting, and then also because we see the opportunity to build in certain privileges for Status-owned addresses. So maybe those people would have the right to vote on certain decisions about the direction of Status or participate in particular private group chats. I'll skip slashing conditions, although that is interesting for security. So this is what it looks like when I've registered a name or my friend has registered a name and I want to find this person in a wallet or chat. The GIF on the right is not working, but that's fine. So this is the wallet flow on the left. I'm just typing nastia.stateofus.eth, and just like that, I'll be able to send Nastia a transaction. So it massively reduces the complexity. There we go, I did it twice. So of course, like, our hope is that with all of the work that we're doing here, we're going to build up some good network effects and a good user base, people who are using Status on a daily basis to do some of these activities. But we know that, like, we cannot achieve mass adoption alone, and that it's really critical that there is decentralized utility across all areas of people's lives. And so for that reason, we're really supportive of all our fellow dApp developers out there who are trying to bring utility to people in novel ways. And so we've got a few different developer tool sets that are geared at dApp developers. The first is basic JavaScript API. Most dApps today are they're web dApps, web applications, so they have a JavaScript front end, which they use to connect to the Ethereum network using Web3 library and Ethereum provider. And we believe that if those dApps are being hosted by the Status browser, then they should have access to Status data. So one example of that would be the Whisper ID, the contact code. If I wanted to build an alternative ENS registration dApp, I could do so using this API, and I could allow allow my users to associate a Whisper ID, potentially registered through Status, well, definitely registered through Status in this case, with their new username. And when you use this API, it prompts that same permission flow that you saw on the ENS screens. The other thing that we're really excited about is extensions. So allowing developers to extend Status in a way that feels native and really tightly integrated with the rest of the application. The top diagram here is kind of the current architecture. It's like the Status browser would be the interface between one of these web dApps and the Ethereum network. And with the extension idea, the dApp functionality would be delivered as part of the Status interface. It would feel very much like a part of Status. Extensions are data-based. They're agnostic, so they should work equally well on desktop, mobile, or connected devices. There are no build steps, and they're user-controlled. Users install them at their own will. So just like having browser extensions, it turns into a pretty customizable experience. The other thing that's really cool about extensions is that because they're just a file that you would host on a service like IPFS, means that your extension is going to be accessible to anyone always, as soon as it's live on IPFS. This is an example of what an extension might look like. It looks a lot like Status. As part of our native feature set, we do support the sending of any ERC20 token in chat. But there's other asset classes out there, like non-fungible tokens, the CryptoKitty token, that an enterprising developer might want to have people send in Status chat. So we built this ourselves as proof of concept. And in this example, I'm sending a Crypto Strikers trading card to one of my friends. This is the breakdown, the anatomy of the extension. We designed these to be built on very familiar concepts so that it would be easy for a developer to get up and running with them. So you've got the concepts of views, queries, and events. Views obviously offer you access to some piece of Status UI. The query allows you to get Status data, and then events allow you to interact with smart contracts. And then necessarily you have a hook. So the hook in this example, hooking into Status, is it's a chat command. And I typically try to avoid saying the word chatbot, but that is what you could build. This is currently in alpha. If you get hold of one of our nightly releases and switch into developer mode, you'll be able to play with extensions. The team has also built this playground, so you can actually go ahead and write an extension today if you want, experiment, and deploy it to IPFS. Click publish, and you'll get a QR code that will allow you to install it in the Status nightly. So we're really excited about this. Definitely open to hearing any feedback from developers, requests that you might have, because we're really looking to collaborate with as many teams as possible to build more utility for users across the whole ecosystem. That said, if you would like to experience Status as a user, you can actually go ahead and download it from the Google Play Store today. Unfortunately, if you're on iOS, you do need to sign up for our test flight distribution. We're still in beta, but you can do that from Status.im. And if you're a developer and you're curious, we have a new home for our developer tools, which is docs.status.im. Thank you. That's all.